Hello. I wanted to show you this interactive web page that has to do with the elements of thought. And I want to begin by looking at the universal standards. There's a video in the critical thinking link on the Blackboard menu that also has Dr. Paul going over these standards. It takes about 30 minutes to watch those videos. And I highly recommend them. But anyway, so we're looking at these standards, and notice that when you put your cursor on a word like relevance or depth, you get some questions that help you understand what it is to look for the depth of something. And it has to do, in this case, with dealing with complexities. How do we know that we're dealing with the most significant and problematic aspects of something? How do we know that we're not oversimplifying things? Depth is an area that helps us think about that. Another one that's also very interesting is breadth, and that has to do with just looking at alternative points of view or alternative perspectives. That's sometimes pretty hard for us because, we may encounter perspectives we don't agree with or that are foreign to us, and we may not want to look at those, but breadth is always about asking us to consider another point of view. And so you can take a look at those. Significance is a good one as well. We want to deal with learning and problems that are significant in our lives. And fairness, which is also a difficult standard because we have to be able to examine our own vested interests in any particular interpretation or point of view. Okay, so there's the universal standards across the top, but I really want to look at how we use this big pie chart here with the elements of thought. Notice that I think the best way to do this is probably to think of using 2 or 3 at one time. Definitely, like Aristotle said in classical Greek time, everything has a purpose. And this is some basic approaches that you can use when you're reading the textbook or when you're reading, say, the Epic of Gilgamesh. You can ask the purpose. What is the purpose of this story? What does it deal with? What kind of questions is the author asking? And what kind of questions do I have about the story? And here again, this helps us think about and direct and guide our thinking. Another one that is important and significant is dealing with assumptions. What am I assuming or taking for granted? Am I assuming something that I shouldn't? For example, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which we're going to read next week and begin in week 3, we're going to encounter Enkidu, a man who lives in the wild, and he's going to spend some time with a harlot. Now, our contemporary sense of that word, prostitute perhaps, or the oldest profession of a woman, but back in the old days, the word in the ancient times, 2,700 years before current era, the word harlot carried a much different connotation and meaning, it appears. From the ancient text, these were wise women, influential women, women to be held in high regard, which is certainly different than the way the patriarchal system or culture of morality may regard harlots today. So these are kind of things that include concepts, and we look at certain concepts and we think about our assumptions, and we think about purpose, and we ask questions like, boy, how did they regard harlots in the ancient world? And then you can move down here, and information helps you think about how you're going to answer that. What information do I need to answer this question? Where do I get it? What's my purpose in gathering that information? How do we know any information is accurate? How do we check its reliability? Certainly relevant in terms of the internet today. So I encourage you to use the elements of thought as you work your way through the text that we will study in this course. Thank you.